What can we expect from the Kansas City Chiefs this season? No vitamins needed. Best team in football. Reigning Super Bowl champions. Back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Last season went 11-6. Their head coach, the cheeseburger-loving Andy Reid. Who doesn't love Andy Reid? They lost Nicole Hardman, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Willie Gay, Mike Edwards. So they have some players that were very, very good that are no longer in Kansas City, but I also think the Chiefs are very good at replacing guys that end up leaving. That's been one of their strengths during this incredible run. Drafted Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Absolutely love that pick, of course. If you're looking at the odds to win the AFC West, they are minus 250. To win the AFC, as you might imagine, pretty short. Plus 325 to win the Super Bowl, 5-1. To make the playoffs, minus 650 is yes, no, is plus 450. So no NFL team in the history of the National Football League has ever won 3 Super Bowls. And on principle, I almost want to say, the Chiefs can't do it. But you know what I've learned is that when I say that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs can't do something, they end up doing it. So it's going to be extremely difficult. Even Tom Brady and the Patriots in the prime of their run never did this, so it's extremely difficult to do. However, if there is a team built to do it, and a coach and a quarterback that can make it happen, this is the team.
Yeah, it's always the Chiefs. They always deserve credit because they have the 2 most important pieces in their cupboard, and everything else just falls into piece around the quarterback and Patrick Mahomes, and probably one of the best head coaches in the league, and Andy Reid. I do think the scary part about the Kansas City Chiefs is that they have room to be even better this year when it comes to their offense. Because let's do a little refresher course. The Chiefs did not look like the Super Bowl favorites for most of the season. They had terrible drops. Their offense looked pedestrian. They averaged only 21 points per game. And, at one point, we saw Patrick Mahomes even losing his cool. This is somebody who rarely shows emotion. He's a happy-go-lucky guy. But I think it was against, who was it, where Kadarius Toney lined up offsides. I think it was against the Bills. And Patrick Mahomes just had this outburst that nobody saw coming. So when you look at the offense from last year, and of course, there's not going to be an upgraded quarterback because it's still Patrick Mahomes and it's still going to be really good. But I do think there is room for a lot of improvement when it comes to the receiving room. Because last year, the Chiefs receivers led the league in drops. Some of these very costly drops at the end of the game, if you remember some of those primetime matchups. So if they can cut down on some of those drops, that's one way that they can improve. And the second way is explosiveness. Believe it or not, this was not an explosive offense last year for the Chiefs. As far as, yards per attempt, all of the metrics, Patrick Mahomes and company ranked 22nd in the NFL in explosive play rate. So by adding Xavier Worthy, the fastest guy out of the NFL draft, how the hell did the NFL let the Chiefs get their hands on Xavier Worthy? And then they added Hollywood Brown. They have the big play potential once again, which is something they haven't had since Tyreek Hill left. And here's the thing. Do you remember how effective Tyreek Hill was when he was coupled with Travis Kelce over the middle? That makes both of those relationships work even better. So I think this offense is primed for an even better season. That's the scariest part.
I agree. They didn't do it with smoke and mirrors last year, but they certainly didn't quite have that level of talent that we'd been accustomed to seeing when it comes to Kansas City. In fact, their offense dropped. I believe last year was the first time in years that they didn't have a top 6 offense in, scoring offense or total yards. They actually dropped down to around 15 last year. So you're right. They got it done with defense and, of course, Patrick Mahomes and clutch play. But they have upgraded at the receiver position. And really, I think the key here is not just Patrick Mahomes and, of course, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and her magic and the dust she just sprinkles all over the team. But also, it's Andy Reid. And I just love Andy Reid. And I'm so glad that he is finally getting his due because when he was in Philadelphia and he was so close and he kept making NFC championship games and just couldn't win at all, there was that stigma that he was a very good head coach but not a great head coach. But when something like that happens, I was thinking about this in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep last night. And I was thinking about Andy Reid and I thought, when a guy has that much success, sometimes it's not that he can't get over the hump. Sometimes it means he's overachieving with the talent that he has, and he needs just a little bit more to get to that final step. And that's what he's gotten in Kansas City. He has that talent now. He has an all-world quarterback. Now he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. And now you're giving Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid together an influx of offensive talent. We know how good that defense already is. I mean, the Chiefs are going to be a problem, and they're going to be a problem for a long time.
Yeah, definitely so. I think for the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe you look at the defense and say maybe the defense isn't going to be quite as good. Losing L'Jarius Sneed to my Titans on the secondary, but still, they've got still plenty of pieces. It's wild to me the circus that the season, how the season unfolded, kind of like a circus last year for the Kansas City Chiefs, and yet they still won a Super Bowl. So I look at like the chaos that unfolded and say, okay, this year should be easier. Because I know you mentioned this in jest, but the Taylor Swift angle, this made every single game a spectacle. Now do you think that things have calmed down just a little bit? Like, obviously, the spotlight will still squarely be on the relationship between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But now that it's not new, do you think this is less of a sideshow for the Chiefs this season?
Well, I would like to think so. I think we'll be slightly less. But let's not kid ourselves, right? This is the best team in the National Football League and the most popular singer in the world. So even if it tones down a little bit, it'll go from like a 10 to a 9, something like that. But I will say this, there is something to managing that sort of circus, if you will, or at least maybe circus isn't the right word, but managing that attention and all that comes with that. So I think that will be easier to handle. The Chiefs are already must-see. And now, of course, if Taylor's there, going to cut away. Oh, is that, what's her name? Ice Spice or whatever it is. I don't know anything. So, but yeah, I think it will be easier to manage that. But imagine having all of that surrounding you and you still maneuver through all of that and you still win a Super Bowl. And this is a better team this year. Now Snead is a big loss. We know that. But the one thing about the Chiefs that I think sort of what underappreciated last year was their defense. It was their defense. This was an awesome defense, particularly on the defensive line. Chris Jones finally got paid, should have gotten paid. One of the best in the business in the middle, just anchors that defense. And so as dynamic as the offense can be, it was, but what about that Chiefs defense? And so when you have such a white-hot star like a Patrick Mahomes and a Travis Kelce, then it tends to overshadow the other strengths on your team. Kansas City defense is no joke either.
Yeah, it's the reason they went to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
I do think we need to mention that Travis Kelce is getting up there in age. We saw a resurgence in the postseason, but for most of the year, it did not look like his normal self. He turns 35 in October. Maybe that's going to be a concern for the Chiefs because he has been very reliable over the course of his career. Obviously, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But Jenks, when it comes to bets, like what are the ones we're looking at here? Because you don't really have to make a case for, wow, the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Wow, right. Patrick Mahomes to win MVP. Like I can just say that and you kind of know the talking points.
Sure.
But how about this one? Patrick Mahomes and his passing yardage prop. It's set at 4,240. He's gone over this in 3 of his last 4 seasons, and he came really close last year, finishing with 4,183 yards. But again, we talked about the drops last year. They led the league in drops. The receiving room was a nightmare. And so now that they've taken some steps to make a more dynamic receiving room, and it's not just more reliable hands, it's guys with upside potential to make this offense way more explosive. Like you said, Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21 40. Hollywood Brown, I know, is going to miss maybe 1 or 2 games, but still, he's a downfield threat as well for a team that lacked explosive potential. Like I said, 22nd in explosive play rate. I think he can go over this. Do you think this is too high of a number?
I tend to stay away from bets like this because Vegas knows what it's doing. And I think it's probably, if I'm going to bet this prop, I'm going to go over. So I'm with you on that. I absolutely think that offense will take a step forward. I'll tell you a bet that it seems really, maybe it seems like a square play. But Patrick Mahomes to win MVP and the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl is 20-1. And Would you be surprised if Patrick Mahomes had an MVP season? I would not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult to win 3 straight Super Bowls. I get that. But at 20-1, I can absolutely see Patrick Mahomes making history, winning MVP, and the Chiefs winning again. They're going to win the division, barring injury. So 20-1 there, I think, is at least worth a sprinkle because I just like the value there. I think with the upgrade on offense, it's worth a shot.